Hello, today we're looking at angles formed by parallel lines cut by transversals. So this is the same thing we looked at yesterday, just continuing getting a little bit more practice. So looking at the warm-up, this is a vocabulary question. It wasn't the biggest emphasis of yesterday, but we did talk about this vocabulary word. So I just wanted to remind it to you by making it the warm-up. So in the figure, G is parallel to P. Which angles are alternate interior angles? Select all that apply. So I'll take a look at your notes from yesterday. I'll just give us this initial reminder that this is the interior. Okay, and then we say up here and down here, we call that the exterior. Okay, look at your notes from yesterday. You'll see what alternate means and which of these angles are alternate interior angles. Go ahead and pause that, try. Okay, so you should have selected Q and T, which we have right here, Q and T, in addition to R and K. So Q and T are congruent, and R and K are congruent. Okay, these are alternate interior because alternate means opposite. So they are on the opposite sides of the transversal. Q is on the opposite side of T, and then they're within the interior, right? So opposite side, it's kind of like opposite and above and diagonal. Okay, so opposite of Q here, we have T, R, and K. So those are alternate interior angles. And again, they're congruent. So for example, if the measure of angle Q was 15 degrees, then the measure of angle T would also be 15 degrees. You don't need to write that if you don't want to. Okay, but just remind you of what congruent means. Okay, let's look at our first example, which is what we did yesterday, but now we're just seeing it in like somewhat of an application. So we have A Street and B Street. A Street and B Street run parallel to each other. The measure of angle 6 is 155 degrees. What is the measure of angle 4? Okay, so let me find angle 6. That's right here. They're saying that's 155 degrees. And that's 155 degrees. And they want us to figure out what is the measure of angle 4. What I could do is I could just draw this out without the streets in case that might help you. So this is 155 degrees, and then they're asking here, this is angle 4. Okay, well, these angle 4 and angle 6 are supplementary angles. They're not the same. This angle, this is going to be 155 degrees. This angle is 155 degrees, but 4 and 6 are not congruent. What they are is they are supplementary because 155 plus the measure of angle 4, that's going to equal 180 degrees. It makes a straight line here or a straight line here. Okay, so our main idea here is angle 4 and angle 6 are supplementary angles. So they are going to add up to 180 degrees. The measure of angle 4 plus the measure of angle 6 equals 180 degrees. Thus, when I take the measure of angle 4 plus 155, I get 180 degrees. Okay? All right, so then I'm going to go ahead and solve this. That measure of angle 4, adding 155, I need to get that by itself. Solve by subtracting by 155. When you do that, 155 minus 155 is 0. So I just get the measure of angle 4 on the left. And on the right, I'm going to get 25 degrees. To check that we're correct, 25 plus 155 equals 180. So that is right. Guys, so angle 4 here will be 25 degrees. So example 4 from the book. Looking at my picture, what must x equal if line C and line D are parallel? So let's look at these angles. I have this angle, which they're telling me is 60 degrees. And then I have this angle. What's the relationship between those angles? So these angles are corresponding angles, so they are congruent. This angle right here, it's going to have the same measure as that angle because they're both to the right of my transversal and they're both above the parallel line that they're attached to. So that means they're corresponding angles, and we know corresponding angles are congruent. So then I can solve this. As the book starts to explain, the 60-degree angle and the angle that measures 2x plus 10 degrees are corresponding angles. For line C and D to be parallel, the corresponding angles must have the same measure. So they're saying what must x equal if they're parallel? We know if they are parallel, this needs to equal this. Okay, so if that is true, then we need to find the value of x that makes 60 equal to 2x plus 10. And we just solve an equation to do that. 2x plus 10 equals 60. I can solve this undoing adding 10 by subtracting 10. 10 minus 10 is 0, so I just get 2x equals 50. And then lastly, I divide both sides by 2, so I get x equals 25. If x equals 25, I can check, just to be careful, check 2x plus 10 is 2 times 25 plus 10. 2 times 25 is 50 plus 10 equals 60. So if x equals 25, this is 60 degrees, this is 60 degrees, which means the corresponding angles are congruent, thus that is in line with saying that C and D are parallel. All right, the try it on the back is like that. So there's 2 problems like that for you to try. So question A, what must x equal if A is parallel to B? Okay, I'll just have you do this problem. So just try number A right now, part A. Help you out a little bit. This is 86 vertical angles. That means this is 86 degrees. And then thinking about corresponding angles, these 2 angles would correspond. So if they were parallel, this would be equal to 86 degrees. So go ahead and solve that. All right, so this should be your correct answer. So we have 3x plus 17 equals 86. Again, because if this is 86, these 2 angles, they're alternate interior angles, so they need to be congruent. They need to be equal to each other. You could also see, right, this is 86, so this is 86 by vertical angles, and then by corresponding angles. These are the same. Lots of ways to do it. We get this equation, we solve it by first subtracting 17 from both sides and then dividing by 3. So we end up with x equals 23. And then for an explanation, if A is parallel to B, then the 3x plus 17 angle must be congruent to the 86 degree angle, right? Because they are alternate interior angles. You could explain that, or because these are vertical angles, but generally we know that this angle needs to be congruent to that angle, so we can set their measures equal to each other. Okay, now let's get B. B is similar but not the exact same, so I want to make sure we're on the same page before I let you try it. Okay, so this is my one angle. This is 100 degrees. Okay, let's mark all the other angles that are 100 degrees. Well, there's this one, since it's vertical to 100 degrees. There's this one, since it corresponds with that 100 degree angle. And then this one, which is vertical to that, or these are alternate interior angles. Okay, so those are all the same. And then we would have, this is my second one, second one, second one, and second one. So if I look at what they're giving me, this is 100 degrees in yellow. This is 7x minus 4 in green. So I'm not going to get the correct answer by setting 7x minus 4 equal to 100. But I do know something special about these green and yellow angles. That is that they are supplementary. Okay, they're going to sum up to 180 degrees. If G is parallel to H. So if G is parallel to H, then the 100 degree angle and the 7x minus 4 degree angle are supplementary. Thus, 7x minus 4 plus 100 should be equal to 180 degrees. Because that's what supplementary means. They form a straight angle, a straight line. Okay, so go ahead, you can finish from there, solve that equation. Make sure we're being careful when we combine the like terms. This is minus 4, so this is really like adding in negative 4. Okay, go ahead, combine, solve. Alright, so you should have gotten x equals 12. So how did I do that? I had my equation, 7x plus negative 4 plus 100 equals 180, which we already talked about. Right, we have yellow angle, green angle. If these lines are parallel, then they are supplementary angles, so they are going to add up to 180 degrees. Okay, so I can set the sum of those two angles equal to 180 degrees. Solve for x to find the value of x I need to make these two supplementary. So, real quick, I can check that. If I have 7 times 12 minus 4, I'm going to get 84 minus 4, which is equal to 80 degrees. And that's perfect. 100 degrees plus 80 degrees is 180 degrees. So we get supplementary angles. Okay, that's actually all of it for today. Feel free to try the Are You Ready for More if you'd like. Lots of practice to get going to, so please do that.